at the coordinate plane is where you have the XY axis like this. Remember, and you would have certain points where you had to plot the points. Does this ring a bell from October? Okay, so you have the X axis here and the Y axis here. I want you to write what I write. Your X axis here is going to be running left to right or horizontal. So it is your horizontal number line. You can tell by looking at these that they're number lines. You know, I have the vertical number line behind me here in the room. This would be like a very good example of the Y axis. And then the X axis runs through the middle. They cross right here at the middle. You can also look over here on the door where it says horizontal X and then vertical Y. And again, the vertical would be the Y axis, so this is going to be vertical right here. The vertical number line in the coordinate system. So Y goes up and down, X goes left to right. This is very important that we know this. So X is left to right, Y is up and down. Yes? Okay. So the point that's at the origin, what number would be right here? 0, 0. Yeah, it's going to be 0, 0. That's going to be this point right here in the middle. The origin is not part of either of the 4 quadrants, which we will get to. The origin is its own spot. It's in the middle. It's 0, 0. It's where we start every time. That's why it's called origin. It's like the original spot. So anytime we're going to plot a point, you always, always, always start at the origin at 0, 0. Your X numbers first and then your Y second. Just think of it like alphabetically, X comes before Y. So you're going to do the X value first, always. That is usually, this kind of can be fun and people kind of like it. You don't need a calculator for this and you kind of get like used to like plotting the points, and it can be like a fun section that we work through. We're going to try to do some fun things too with this, but the most common mistake is to forget that you have to do the X value first. Okay. So the points, all the different points that look like this ordered pair here that we have always done, the points are located in reference to the X-axis and the Y-axis. So this is going to be your X-axis here and Y-axis here. So the points are going to be where they're going to be on the X and Y. So how far left and right do I move, and how far up and down do I move once I get to the Y-axis point. Now, the second part here, the X-axis and Y-axis separate the coordinate plane into 4 regions. Now you can kind of look at even just the little sketch that I've drawn here. If you look down here at the bottom of your page, you can see that there are clearly 4 distinct sections, right? Those different regions are called quadrants. This is important to note. Quad means 4, right? So quadrants, these are called quadrants. There are 4 of them, and they have different numbers, and it's important that we know which one is which. We've already went over number 3 here. The blank is located at 0, 0. It's the origin. And it's just where the 2 axes intersect. And if you hear me say axes, it's the plural of axis. Number 4, I put a star here by this one. Ordered pairs are always named X, comma, Y. So your X value is your first number and your Y value is your second number. So when you start at the origin, you look at your X and say, okay, this is where I need to go for X, and then you go up or down for Y. So the ordered pairs are always X, Y. X is always first. So the X coordinates tells us how far to go to the right or to the left. And the Y coordinate tells us how far to go up or to go down. Again, this should be somewhat of a review. Okay, let's look at the bottom part. So I mentioned before that if you look at number 2, the X-axis and Y-axis separate the coordinate plane into 4 regions. So can we see these 4 regions here? Okay, We're going to label the x-axis, the y-axis, the origin, and the quadrants on this drawing here. So the x-axis goes left to right or up and down? Left to right. So it's going to be this number line. The x-axis looks like a number line you've used like in elementary school, just a plain old number line, left to right. So this is your x here, this one, going this way. Which means your vertical axis, or the one that looks like that's one that's behind me here on the wall, this is your y-axis. And this center point here, what's it called again? Origin. And its coordinates are 0, 0. It's important to note that the origin is not part of any of the 4 quadrants. So if you see a question that's like, what quadrant is the origin in? You put none. It does not fall in any of the quadrants. It is its own section. It's its own point. Every other point on the coordinate plane will fall in one of the 4 quadrants. Okay, so the quadrants are labeled with Roman numerals. They do that because there's so many numbers on this coordinate plane already. If I just wrote a random 1, 2, 3, 4, it would get confusing. So we use Roman numerals. You've seen Roman numerals in your life before, obviously. So this top right positive section right here, this is going to be your quadrant 1. Okay? Now I want you to think about something. If I was going to put a positive or negative in the quadrant over here, is our x value in this quadrant going to be positive or negative if it's on this side? It's going to be positive, right? So your x is going to be positive. And then if I go up this way for this quadrant, are my y going to be positive or negative?
Negative.
Positive. So all of the points that fall in quadrant 1, every single one, all of them will be positive, positive. Does that make sense? So you can look at a ordered pair, and if I say, what quadrant is that in? You can tell me what quadrant it is just simply based on what the signs are of the numbers. So quadrant 2 is not going to be clockwise. This is going to go counterclockwise. So quadrant 2 is going to be to the left here. So this one here is going to be your quadrant 2, and it's labeled Q2 like this. And if we were going to assign powers to this for our ordered pair,
It'd be negative, positive.
it would, Ashton, that's good. So if I'm going to go negative on the x, my x value, which is always first, is going to be negative. And if I go up to get into this quadrant, my y value is always going to be positive. Does that make sense?
Would be negative, negative.
So we're going to go on, we're doing this counterclockwise. So this quadrant here is my quadrant 3. Again, we're using Roman numerals, which I know is kind of odd, but you can imagine how confusing that would get if you had a bunch of numbers everywhere.
Negative, negative.
So your x is going to be this way, so it is negative, and your y is going to be coming down, so it is negative. Looks like a little face. Negative, negative. Do you remember this at all? We did this in October. We did this in October, but I want us to remember it. You should have possibly done it last year. Okay, this is quadrant 4.
How do you do that one?
This one's IV. Yeah, I should have explained that. The Roman numeral for 5 is V, and there are
6 would be
VI. Yeah, so like the 4 they subtract. It's very strange, but it just is 4. Okay, wait, and then so we're gonna do XY here.
It'd be positive, negative.
It would be positive, negative. Good.
Please pardon the interruption.
Sorry for
This
this.
should be understood anytime you have a teacher missing. Log on to Schoology. Everything is there. Teachers put things there. Don't tell coverage teachers, we don't have anything to work on. That's a big lie. So if you're in a classroom where a teacher is not there today, log on to Schoology. Thank you.
Okay. So So, any questions about this? This is your quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4. You should, this is a notes page that will come in handy for you. Is everyone with me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're gonna go over to
I'm
the,
gonna go do the quadrant things on the other one.
we can go ahead and do the right part here now together. Okay, so we're gonna graph A, B, C, D, E, F. I'm gonna show you how to do that, how I want it to look. So let's start with A. And before we move on, I just want to, let's like, this is a good way to make sure you're doing it right. We're going to go through each point here, and we're going to label what quadrant it's going to fall in. We're not even going to plot the point first. We're just going to look at the numbers and then look over here at the signs, and we can tell by the signs what quadrant it's going to be. So if we're looking at A, and it's 3, 4, and they're both positive, what quadrant is that going to be in? Q1. If they're both negative, what quadrant is that? Q3. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm just looking here like this. If it's negative X, positive Y, what quadrant is that? Negative X, positive Y. Q2. See, it's negative, positive. Then we have positive, negative, which would be Q4. Okay, these are trickier. So, if it's 0, 3, if it's 0 and it's 3, and it's on the line, what quadrant is that in?
It's in between two.
It's in between. So when it's in between, like the origin is its own, if it falls on the line, you're going to write the line that it falls on. So is this on the X or the Y axis? 0, 3 is going to be up here
That's on the X.
It'd be
on the Y, which means if it's negative 4, 0, it's going to be on the X axis. Does it make sense? Okay, take a second. Let's plot these. All right, so we're got 3, 4.
first three.
4 can be written I as well as ID.
Okay, so not for math. So 3, 4, we're going to go over 3. X is our first letter, or our first direction. So 3 is positive, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3. We're going to keep our pencil on that 3. Look for where Y is. Y is going to be 4, so we're going to stay here and we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to put that point here and we're going to label it A. Make sense? Okay. So B is negative 4, negative 2. So we're going to go over 4 to the left since it's negative. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it's negative 2, so we'll go down to 1, 2. And that's going to be B. We'll start back at the origin for C. Negative 1, positive 3. So negative 1 here, up positive 3. 1, 2, 3. That's going to be C. Can you see how if you identify the quadrant, you can keep yourself in check? Like you can make sure you're doing it right. Because we know that this is Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. So we know that. So we already said it was Q2. So if you made a mistake accidentally and you ended up putting it down here, you could be like, wait a minute, that's supposed to be in Q2. Let me double check myself. It's easy to make a mistake doing this. It's super easy to make a mistake. So we'll do D, E, F. So D is positive 2, negative 2. So we're going to go over 1, 2, and then down 1, 2. That's going to be D.
That's negative, negative. You said negative and then a positive.
No, positive 2, negative 2 is D. So you go over 2 and then down 2.
Oh, no, one thing.
The negative negative is Q3. That was
Yeah, I
B.
was looking at the wrong thing.
It's just easy. It kind of gets jumbled. And see what happens too is it's not hard. It's not a difficult thing. So you think I got this, and you start plotting like crazy. But if you can start making silly mistakes. Okay, so this one's going to fall on the y-axis. So we're going to go. This one's 0. So if x is 0, we're not going any direction on the x-axis. So we're going to sit right on it. We're not going to go anywhere if it's 0. Then it's 3. So we're going to go up 3. So it's going to fall right on the y-axis, and that's going to be E. And the last one is negative 4, 0. So we start here at the origin. We go over negative 4 first because it's x. And then for y, we go 0. So we don't go up or down. So we're going to put a point right here and label that F.
Hey, we're finished.
Any questions?